Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here on our 2019 Ford Taurus. So this is what our trailer hitch is going to look like installed on our vehicle. Now number one, it is recessed behind the bumper quite a ways, therefore you don't have to worry about hitting your shins on it. It's also going to keep it nice and hidden. It also has a concealed cross tube, which means that's tucked behind the bumper, so you don't have to worry about that, reducing your ground clearance. And the hidden cross tube also looks a little bit nicer on this vehicle. Now all of our hitch components are black, have a black powder coat finish there, which is going to do a great job of helping protect the hitch over time from rust and corrosion, being that it is on the vehicle and it does kind of get banged up from time to time. So adding a trailer hitch to your Taurus, it's going to be an excellent option because it's going to make your vehicle that much more versatile. Now we can obviously use a trailer hitch for towing, but some other things we could use it for if we wanted to hit the trails, or if we just needed to free up some space inside the vehicle for us and the family on those long road trips, we could easily attach either a hitch-mounted bike rack or a hitch-mounted cargo carrier. So in regards to towing, our trailer hitch here is going to provide us with a 3,500 pound gross trailer weight rating. That's the amount we can pull outward on the receiver. And it also has a 300 pound tongue weight rating, which is going to be the downward force on the receiver tube. Now keep in mind, these capacities are for the hitch only, which is tested separately of the vehicle. Therefore, you do need to verify the vehicle's towing capacity in your owner's manual and abide by the lower of the two rated components, whether that's the hitch or the vehicle. So the opening of our receiver tube is going to be 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch. So these are going to work great with a lot of different bike racks and even some cargo carriers. Now, if you do want that larger receiver tube opening option, which is 2 inch by 2 inch, there is a trailer hitch available for this vehicle for that. But if you're just using it for bike racks, then chances are the 1 1/4 inch is going to suit you best. So if we take a closer look at the side of the receiver tube, you're going to see a 1/2 inch diameter hole. It's going to work with a 1/2 inch diameter hitch pin and clip. This is used to secure our accessory. Now keep in mind, the hitch pin and clip does not actually come with the hitch, and that's because a lot of your ball mounts, bike racks, and cargo carriers are actually going to come with their own. And then welded to the bottom of the receiver tube, we have our safety chain loops. Those are going to work great with both the larger style clevis hooks, as well as the smaller type S. So now a couple measurements for you guys here. The distance from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube, you're looking at about 12.5 inches. And that'll be useful when you're selecting a ball mount. That way you can make sure you get the correct rise and drop to tow your trailer level. And then the distance from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outside edge of the bumper. So we talked about this hitch being tucked back behind the bumper a little bit more than usual. So you're looking at about 5 inches. So you'll need to take this into consideration when you're selecting a bike rack or cargo carrier, especially one that folds. That way you can make sure that while they're in the stowed position, they don't contact the vehicle. So in regards to installation, this one is very simple. There's no modifying to the vehicle whatsoever, so you're not going to void any warranties, or if you lease the vehicle, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble with the dealer. Now it's just going to take basic common hand tools. A basic hand tool set allow you to get the job done. There is one tool you may not have. That's a torque wrench. We have some cost-effective options you can pick up with your hitch here at eTrailer, but I certainly understand not wanting to purchase a tool just for a one-time use, so in which case you can actually rent a torque wrench for free from most local auto parts stores. I'd give yourselves around a couple hours to do this depending on your skill level, but we can walk you through the entire process step by step now. So the first step of our installation, we need to come underneath the vehicle here. We're actually going to be lower the exhaust. So what we need to do is we need to take some sort of support mechanism. If we're working on the ground, you could use a couple blocks of wood or a couple jack stands, really whatever you have available. Since we're in the air, we're just going to be using a cam buckle strap. And basically, we're just going to tie it off to 2 points on the vehicle. I like to use the coil springs. And then we're going to pull it tight. You can see here the strap is going to provide support from the bottom of our exhaust when we break the hangers free, which is the next step. So now we're going to come to the rear of the vehicle, directly behind the bumper. You can see our rubber isolators here with our 2 metal exhaust hangers going through them. So what we're going to do first is we're going to spray them down as best we can. And then we're going to take either a pry tool or an actual exhaust hanger removal tool. And we're going to be removing the metal hanger from the isolator. The bottom one is kind of hard to get to at first, so I think I'm going to remove the top one first, and then we can remove the bottom one. So I've got that one out, and now we have one on the other side as well. So now that we have the 2 out behind the bumper, we do have one more here just directly below the cross member. So this is the one right after the exhaust splits. So again, we're going to go ahead and spray it down. And then take our tool here or a pry bar and remove it. So now above our muffler on the driver's side, we're going to have an exhaust hanger bracket here. So there's going to be 2 bolts holding this to the frame. We do need to remove this, so we're going to grab a 10mm socket and remove both of those bolts. You may or may not need to pull this muffler down a little bit to have access with your tool. And with our last bolt removed, our bracket should come down along with it. So now we're going to come over here to the passenger side. We're going to be doing that exact same thing. The only difference is these 2 bolts here are a little bit larger, so we're going to need an 18mm socket. So our 2 exhaust hanger brackets that we just removed, we won't be reinstalling, so you can go ahead and discard these or save them for reinstallation at a later date. That goes with the hardware as well. So next we need to fish wire some hardware into the frame. So we're going to take our fish wire here, a carriage bolt, and a spacer block. We're going to set these 2 things aside, unravel our fish wire here. Now I do recommend using safety glasses when you're messing with this fish wire, because this end here is very pointy and the wire is also springy, so you could potentially poke your eye. So just go ahead and put some safety glasses on. But what we're going to do is we're going to look on the bottom of the frame, and just directly behind the bumper beam you're going to have our access hole here, and then a little bit further back you're going to have the hole that we want our hardware through. So keep in mind this is going to be for the driver's side. The passenger side is a little bit different. What we're going to do is I'm going to take the coiled end of our fish wire, I'm going to stick it through the hole that we want the bolt to come through, and I'm going to fish that coiled end out the side with our access hole. It's a little tricky to do. You're going to stick one finger up there and sort of guide it while you're pushing on the other end. But once you have it through there, you're going to place over a spacer block and then thread on a carriage bolt. And once you get that threaded on there, you're going to grab the other end of the wire. You're going to push your spacer block into the frame, push your carriage bolt up in there, and then you're going to pull it all the way through this side here until the carriage bolt comes down through the spacer block and through the hole. So now we're going to grab another of that same combo, and what we're going to do is we're going to be fishing this hardware through that access hole that we just used. Now we have to use a reverse fish wire technique in order to do that, and this just simply entails placing the spacer block over the coiled end of our fish wire and then threading on our carriage bolt. And now we'll go ahead and shove this hardware through the frame there and show you how that's done. So we'll shove our carriage bolt up there, shove our spacer block, and then pull straight down. Just like that. Now over on the passenger side, the forwardmost hole closest to the front of the vehicle actually has a weld nut in it, so we don't have to fish wire any hardware into the frame there. But the rearward one closest to the bumper there, right behind the bumper beam flange, we are going to have to reverse fish wire some hardware into that. And in your kit, unfortunately, they only provide you with 2 fish wires. I'm not sure why that is. So we are going to have to pull one of the fish wires off the driver's side and use it to help get the hardware in over on the passenger side. So we need to be aware of this when we're lifting our hitch into position. That way we don't knock that bolt back up into the frame there. So not quite sure why they only give you 2 wires, but we're just going to have to work with what we got. So I'm going to go ahead and steal one from this side. So now we're ready to lift our hitch into position now that we have the hardware into the frame rails. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prep our hardware here. So you're going to be using these flange nuts. You're going to need 2 on the driver's side, 1 on the passenger side. Once we do get the hitch into position with an extra set of hands, we'll go ahead and secure it to the carriage bolts using these nuts here first. So now with an extra set of hands, we can raise our hitch up into position. We do have to come up and over the muffler and underneath the bumper, so there is a bit of maneuvering. And don't forget to push your fish wires to the respective holes in the hitch. So then for our other hole over here on the passenger side, the one closest to the front of the vehicle, we don't have any hardware into the frame there because it actually uses the factory weld nut. So we're just going to take our hex bolt with our conical tooth washers and thread it in. Looks like we do have to maneuver the hitch a little bit to center that hole a little bit better, but shouldn't be too big of a deal. Now that we've got everything into position, we'll go ahead and snug down all of our hardware. Then we can torque it to the specifications in your instructions. So now, as we said, we'll come back with a 19mm socket and snug everything down. So now that we have the hitch in place, everything's torqued down, what we're going to do is we're going to resecure all our rubber exhaust isolators that we removed earlier. So we obviously removed the two brackets on the bottom of the frame, but the hitch actually has a built-in peg there, which is going to mimic an exhaust hanger. That way we can just slide the isolator onto that new hanger. And again, it's a good idea to go ahead and spray everything down again, just to make sure it's nice and lubricated and easy to install. So now that I've got that one on, we'll just do that same thing on the other side. And don't forget to resecure the center isolator there where the exhaust split. And with our exhaust secure, that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here on our 2019 Ford Taurus.